All right, folks, let's bring in from Kingsview Wealth Management, the CIO, of course, Fox Business contributor, Scott Martin. Scott, let's start. Earlier in the show, we were talking about where Wall Street is looking at over the next 10 years because, the street magically thinks things are going to just flip, right? Again, just for the audience, this is your growth stocks, right? This is the last 10 years. On average, every year, up 16.5%. Has been pretty good. Large caps in general up 13%. But they're saying, you know what? Everything's going to change. They're going to see now it's going to be small caps that are going to crush. By the way, had two guests on today that said small caps. International stocks, emerging growth. We hear this all the time. Even some say bond market. Are you buying this? Do you think that, we're just going to sort of flip and all of a sudden 2025 the script changes completely?
There could be some flip, Charles. I mean, some of this is magically delicious when it comes to these numbers. But you know what I like about some of this stuff, Charles? Some of the numbers look really great. Returns look awesome, don't they? But you got to look at Sharpe ratio, my man, as far as what the risk is versus the return. And I don't think it's there in international. I don't think it's there in small caps. I think if you're looking at Sharpe ratio, basically what you're going to pay for to get those returns, Charles, I think you stay with these guys. I think you stay up here because of the fact that large cap growth is where the earnings are, man. And if there's any change in interest rate policy, which I think there's going to be, how about change in political policy? I'm staying with the big boys, and I'm staying with large cap.
Staying with momentum that's worked out. By the way, it's worked out pretty good for the last 10 years. I'm glad you talked about risk-reward and Sharpe ratio because no one ever really talks about that. It's always sort of the Pee Wee Herman thing. I meant to do that. No, you know what? Sometimes it's not worth the risk. This is one of the stocks of the day because, again, if you're going to stick with the Mag 7, I know you're long Google. You really couldn't ask for a better number, right? They crushed it on revenues. They crushed it on earnings. They crushed it on ad revenue, cloud. They crushed it across the board. And every time they crush it, the next story is, how long can they keep it going? Can they keep it going much longer?
Yeah, they've said that every time. In the last few quarters, it's always been the case. I mean, the number one thing for me, Charles, right here is cloud and YouTube. I love YouTube, by the way. And it's kind of like Pee Wee Herman. If you jumped off of these names because of what the analyst said, like fell off your bike like Pee Wee did once in a while, guess what? You missed all these moves. And so for me, Google always continues to make it happen. And guess who else I like in this space, too, as far as the Mag 7? Amazon and Meta. Both stocks that are really expensive, granted, but stocks that can keep pounding it out just like Google
Well,
did.
I just spoke with Alicia, right? She's saying that these stocks are expensive because they should be expensive. They deserve to be expensive.
Yes.
All right, so you also own AMD.
Yeah.
AMD, these are the worst performing yet. But I want to get one other thing before that. Your thoughts just overall on the market, right? You got bond markets telling a story. You've got the stock market overall biases to the upside. And then you've got this anxiety. I don't see it, but the headlines keep telling me it's out there. Will things change dramatically, you think, after next Tuesday?
Nope, I think they get worse. And I love anxiety, Charles. I love, as my kids say, the haters are out there because you mentioned AMD. I mean, AMD looks like a bad day. I mean, here's what I write about AMD today. A sad face. And I know like some Pat Summerall to John Madden, kind of the two of us here. But the reality is like, those are times when you got to pick those stocks up, my friend. If you get a chance to get that anxiety that goes into the market on names you like and names that are backed up, AMD's earnings were fine. It's just NVIDIA's crushing it and some of the other companies in there. But the reality is when you get a stock pullback like that, take it and buy more.
The election, though, one way or the other, I mean, will you change your tune no matter who wins? I mean,
I'm going to change my tune if the market rallies after the election, Charles. I think the market's going down after the election. I think it's a sell the news type of thing.
Anticlimactic, no matter who wins.
Yes, exactly. The market's like, oh, wait, now we figure this out. Now we know what's going to happen. And then they get worried and get poo-pooed. That's when you go in.
My man.
See you, man.
Great seeing you.
See you soon.